Yesterday, a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. refused a request by Donald Trump's Justice Department to indict 6 members of Congress for saying publicly exactly what everyone in the American military is taught, that no one in the military should follow illegal orders.
Yesterday, we saw the great lengths that Donald Trump and his administration will go to abuse power in order to silence and intimidate anyone who disagrees with them. We learned through the media that federal prosecutors tried and failed to get an indictment of us from a grand jury. This is outrageous. They tried to have us charged and thrown into jail because we said something that they didn't like, because we repeated what the law actually is. This happened here. This is straight from the authoritarian playbook, from the very beginning of our nation. It is dependent on the willingness of patriotic Americans to fight for it. Senator Slotkin and I, we did not ask for this. We're just the first through the breach. But you'll be damn sure that we are not going to back down. We've been in war zones for this country. We fought our country's enemies. This doesn't intimidate us. And we know that this is much bigger than the two of us. The most patriotic thing that any American can do right now is to continue exercising our rights, continue speaking truth to power, and not backing down.
Joining us now is former astronaut, former Navy pilot, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. He's a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator, where were you when you got the news, or you read this news that they tried to do this yesterday? What did you feel when you read that?
Well, Lawrence, we had a little bit of a heads up. We, heard something was going to happen, that they might try to impanel a grand jury and try to indict us and send us to jail or prison. That's President and Pam Bondi and Jeanine Pirro's goal here. I was just pulling up in front of my place last night, and I was on the phone with my chief of staff when she got the word from our attorney that they tried to do this, but a handful, a couple dozen of U.S. citizens seem to understand the Constitution much better than anybody in this administration does, and refuse to indict us.
Yeah, that's what was standing between Pamela Bondi and your indictment, is just citizens reporting for jury duty. Yeah,
this time we'll see if they keep pressing here. They've got a reputation. This president doesn't like to lose, though he seems to have made a habit of it lately, especially as he uses his justice system as a weapon against people that he disagrees with. Hey, Alyssa Slotkin and I and the 4 House members, we said something the president didn't like. He started out with hanging us. He wanted us hanged. Then he said executed. Now we're in the prosecutorial phase of this. I also have a case with the Navy. They're trying to demote me and take away some of my pension after 25 years. But like we said in that press conference today, this isn't about just the two of us. This is about 350 million Americans who this president will go after and try to silence if he doesn't like what comes out of their mouths. And this is wrong and it's un-American. So, for that reason, we're in it to the end.
Every news network has shown the video where you all say this, where you all tell us all and members of the military that they should not follow illegal orders. Many of us with programs like this have repeated multiple times what you actually said. And so in the theory of what they were doing yesterday, you could prosecute every one of these networks and every one of us who's presented this news.
Yeah, I suppose, or all of my colleagues who have repeated it over and over again, or maybe even Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who in 2016, when Donald Trump was running for office, and apparently 2016 Pete Hegseth didn't like some of the stuff that Donald Trump was saying, like killing the family members of terrorists, meaning women and children. That Pete Hegseth said exactly what we said. In the video, that members of the military are not going to follow and should not follow unlawful or illegal orders. So that guy seemed to get it. And obviously people understand that members of the military are trained on this. This just means follow the law. But Donald Trump and people around him don't like when somebody presents something that that he doesn't agree with. He thinks he should be allowed to do and give whatever order he wants because he's a wannabe dictator.
Senator, it seems that you have left a marker here for historians of just how far Donald Trump is willing to go in abusing the Constitution against anyone. Senator Mark Kelly, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Lawrence.